Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet a very successful foot and ankle surgeon, and he's doing a ton of work these days on bunions. His incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I think millions of Americans just take their feet for granted. Their feet are there, they might be sore a little bit, but you're not going to go see a doctor about that. But then it really starts to ache, and suddenly you're seeing a doctor like my next guest. Dr. Paul Stankey is in the studio. He's with Foot and Ankle Associates of North Texas. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you were telling me before we started that you were starting down the path of becoming a pediatrician.
Mm-hmm. So originally when I was much younger, still a young guy, but when I was much younger, I wanted to become a pediatrician. I think partially because that's the only doctor I knew. You know, when you're getting out of high school, that's the only doctor you know. But I kind of am this kind of more emotional guy. You know, I get choked up a little bit sometimes. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to handle treating children if they got very sick. So I knew I was good with my hands. So I started looking into orthopedics as an option. And family is very important to me, so when I started finding out they were working 60 to 80 hours a week, it just wasn't the best option for me. And I had my microbiology professor in college was just debating himself going into podiatry school, so he told me about it. And great career, we get to work with our hands, we get to help people, and more importantly, you stay married because you don't work 60 to 80 hours a week, so that's really important to me.
Yes, and so I want to, before we get into bunions, I want to talk about like high heel pain, because I keep hearing stories about women who say, you know, if it's an attractive shoe, it can't be comfortable. so they wear these heels all day, and it can really hurt your arch. And I mean, you're the doc. I mean,
sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, high heels are not great for our feet, but everything's in moderation, right? So you don't want to drink a 24-pack of beers, but 1 or 2 might be okay on the weekend, right? So you can wear high heels, and there's different types that have more support to them. You know, bigger, chunkier heels are more comfortable for your foot. But as long as we're using those in moderation, they're okay. When it comes to bunions, I know a lot of people say, well, my high heel caused that. In reality, it wasn't the high heel. It was a genetic predisposition that they were given to them by their parents. So wow. It is a problem, but it can make it worse, but it's not the cause.
Gotcha. Okay, we're going to pull up your website, and as we scroll down your website, talk about the various services that you offer.
So we're a 5-physician practice, Foot and Ankle Associates of North Texas. We're in Grapevine and Keller, Texas. As you can see here, we treat basically everything foot and ankle, from skin to bone to joint to nerve. So it could be sports medicine, meaning you have an injury to your ankle. In my case, my focus is primarily bunion surgery. And you can see all my lovely partners here with, you know, better headshots than mine. I don't get prettier than that, unfortunately. But we treat everything. It could be ingrown toenails, fungus. We can make orthotics for our athletes. We do, like this morning, I was operating doing ankle repairs for people that have chronic ankle sprains. So wow. It's pretty diverse. When you go to a foot and ankle physician, we can treat basically anything below the knee that you're having struggles with.
Sure. I remember back in the day when Deion Sanders was playing for the Cowboys, he got like turf toe, and it was amazing that just a toe injury could take him out, and I know it took him weeks to recover from that.
Yeah, it's when you tear the tissue in the bottom of that big toe joint, there's 2 little bones there, kind of like your kneecap. They kind of function that way. And if you tear the ligament between them, it's very difficult to heal. There's no fancy surgical repair we can do to get you back in the field in a few weeks. So it is one of the more troublesome injuries for football players. Luckily, the turf they used to have at the old stadium when it was like rock hard, there's a lot less of that. So the newer turfs have less of those injuries occurring.
Well, you brought several props with you. Why don't you go ahead and hold them up near your face and describe what we're looking at?
So here what we're looking at is basically one of the products that we utilize to correct a bunion deformity. This is called Lapiplasty bunion correction. So if we were to steal this prop, this would show you what a bunion would look like. Basically, it's a deviation of that long bone behind the great toe joint. And this is actually an actual foot of an actual patient. We're going to talk about that because this is the new innovation in bunion surgery. But what we do with this equipment we have here is we're able to fix the joint where the bunion comes from. So classically with bunion surgery, we were realigning that big toe joint by cutting the bone in half and shifting it over, kind of looking at bunions as just a width problem of the foot, when in reality it's much, much more than that. It's actually an instability here in the midfoot that causes the bone to widen, to elevate, and more importantly, rotate. And that rotation is extremely important for correction, kind of like your car's wheels being out of alignment. Sure. So that's what we've been doing this. This has become one of the number one surgeries in the country for 3D bunion correction. It is my specialty, my practice. About 70% of all my surgeries are bunion corrections now. And we're just getting more and more innovations with this because it's already taking the bunion market by storm. But now we have patient-specific instrumentation, or PSI, which is really interesting. This is not something new in orthopedics, but it's new for bunion deformities because in the past, everything was made one size fits all. You know, we may have similar feet, we have a size 10, but there's differences there. So what we're able to do now is when we have these complex bunion deformities, is we're able to actually take a CT scan, which is like a fancy x-ray, and we can reconstruct that foot. This is an actual model made from a CT scan, 3D printed for this specific patient. And from that, they can also make these specialized cutting guides that we have that literally snap right onto the bone. It does it in real life too, not just on a model. I've done it before. Yeah. So
hold it up a little higher.
Yeah, so the beauty of this model is that when we do the traditional approach, we have special guides and jigs that we use to correct that bunion deformity. That takes time, it takes just dissection, it causes subtle increased trauma to the patient's foot. So we have a cutting guide where we can 3D reconstruct that foot even before we step into the operating room, realign all the bones. This cutting guide does all of that in one easy step. Once we snap it on there, we make the cuts, we realign the bone, we apply the plates like you see on this model, and that patient has a brand new foot. And the beauty is, unlike the old way we did bunion surgery, patients are able to walk the same day as surgery. They have a recurrence rates that drop substantially. I mean, there's some studies with the old way, up to 78% of the time, patients can have a recurrence of their bunion. In 2 separate studies, about 13 and 17 months, we have a 1 to 3% chance of recurrence with these newer systems.
And recovery time?
It is day surgery, so to do this whole procedure, it's only going to take, for me, 45 minutes to an hour. You head home with the boot on for about 6 weeks. It's a tall version of a boot, but you can walk on it. Of course, in the early stages, patients are walking slower. They're walking kind of more flat-footed. But by 2 to 3 weeks, they start to walk a more normal cadence. And by 4 weeks, they're walking normal, just annoyed that they're wearing a boot still. But by week 6, people are getting out of that walking boot, going into athletic-style shoes. And then typically by month 3 or 4, they're returning to full normal impact exercises, even though we do allow some exercise of other kinds during recovery.
Absolutely fascinating. And one of the things I love about you is your content machine. You're producing a lot of great videos. Let's go ahead and roll one.
Hi, this is Dr. Paul Steinke from Foot and Ankle Associates of North Texas, and we're fixing a bunion today. And what a bunion is a deviation of this first bone away from the middle of the foot. So you can see that these are pretty parallel with each other, but this first metatarsal is deviated, leading to pain on the side of the foot, nerve pain, joint pain, difficulty wearing shoes. So we're going to be straightening that out with a Lapiplasty bunion correction by correcting at the source of the deformity in the middle of the foot, called the first tarsal metatarsal joint. So let's get started.
So I like that because so many patients, I think, will come up with a horror story that they're telling themselves about what this is going to look like. And for you to be that transparent and say, look, this is exactly what you're going to experience. So you have the heart of a teacher, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I like education is really important to me. I think for myself, I'm always learning. I don't ever stop. If you get an opportunity to read something, if someone, please don't recommend a book to me because I'll probably read it and I got a lot of things to do. But I'm always learning. I like to educate people as far as the Lapiplasty bunion correction system. I'm one of the faculty doctors. And what we do is we travel the country and we train doctors on how to perform this procedure. So it's a little more complex at first, but as they start doing it, it simplifies the surgery for our surgeons so that we get a more precise, reproducible result. And that's why we're going to this PSI, because patient-specific instrumentation is going to give you a more precise result, less time in surgery. It's just better overall for us as surgeons, but most importantly, better for our patients.
Sure. And I know you're a modest guy, but I'm going to ask you to brag on yourself for the viewers. You're the top person for using this particular answer?
I'm one of the busiest doctors in the country, yes. I know which number I am, but I'm not supposed to say.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, sure.
The other thing I love about you, as I was doing research for the show, I learned that you're from Milwaukee.
I am.
And when you came here, you might have had just a little hint of an accent. I don't hear it now. How long have you been here?
13 years, but I've always told people if you're from the Midwest, that's what everybody sounds like on the news.
Yeah.
So we don't have accents. I think we just say certain words funny.
Yes. So his team made a video a few years ago. Let's go ahead and roll that.
Hey, Dr. Steinke, where are you from?
I'm from Milwaukee.
Milwaukee?
I mean, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Wisconsin. Has anybody seen my bag? You know, we really need to get a bubbler in this office. I have a boatload of notes to write today. All right, I'll see you guys at the picnic. I'm going to go to the store and pick up some brats and kraut. Sorry I'm late. I'm going to hit every single stop and go light on the way here. That was a long day. I could go for a nice supper. Oh, hey Shannon, could you come over here once real quick? You know what would have made this lunch so much better? Fried cheese curds. Can someone tell me where the closest time machine is? Were you a little upset by the fact that there were no polkas at Nathan's wedding? Hey, Dr. Crane, do you want to tailgate before the football game? Do you want to tailgate before the concert? Hey, Tina, you want to tailgate before the wedding? You want to tailgate before the baby shower? Tailgate. 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 You want to tailgate? Have you guys heard if there are any festivals going on this weekend?
I love it. I love it that you can kind of make fun of yourself. Truly, the people of the upper Midwest, because I lived in Minnesota for 4 years, Minnesota nice, Wisconsin nice, it's a real thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
How have you enjoyed Texas so far, and what differences have you noticed?
I love Texas. I'm sorry I cannot become a Cowboys fan. I'm a diehard Packer fan, own the stock, go to the games every year as much as we can.
Very cool.
But I love the fact that this is a place in this country where it really is kind of a melting pot. You when you come here, you meet someone new, and you say, where are you from? You're thinking they're going to say Plano, but they always say, like, Minnesota or New York.
Yeah.
It's like people from all over the country have come here together. It's also nice because no matter where I want to go in the world, I can fly one nonstop flight there. So if I want to go home and see what snow looks like again, I can do that, but I don't have to shovel it.
I love it. I love it. In the final minute, for that person who's watching this who's been putting off bunion surgery, what do you want to say to them?
What I would say is the revolution we've had in bunion surgery has really changed the recovery for our patients. When people think of bunion surgery, they think of having to be off their foot and there being a lot of pain and then their bunion deformity is going to come back. And those are a lot of the problems of the past. We've helped solve those with these newer procedures, these more precise instrumentation. So if you're kind of waiting to have a bunion surgery, you're not sure if you want to proceed, I would tell them just come into our office, look at a consult. You can go to our have a consult with us. You can go to our website, fant.com, or I have my 3dbuniondoc.com website. It really gives you all the information you could possibly need about bunion surgery, from as simple as how to ice and elevate to how to walk in a boot and what the surgery looks like. So if you have a strong stomach and you can't sleep at night, you can definitely watch one of those videos as well.
Outstanding. You've been an amazing guest. We're going to end you with the website once again, which is fant.com. That's Foot and Ankle Associates of North Texas, the great Dr. Paul Stankey. Thanks for coming on the show.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.